time it is!
Hour. I'm your host, Chris, giving you all the answers with little to no research. We're back by popular demand, or, just had some stuff come up and, took a little break. Anyway, today, I am drinking the, what's called a pub beer lager by 10 Barrel Brewing Company. Basically, it's marketed as, I don't know if anyone remembers or seen the old advertisements with the white can that just say beer. Well, this is basically what this is trying to do. It's white and black, just says pub beer on it, lager. And it's actually really good, coming from a 10 Barrel Brewing Company. So they're marketing it like, the cheap knockoff beers, but it definitely isn't it. So that's what I'm enjoying today. So what you'll notice this go around, I am hosting this solo. Now, before any of the wild accusations go running around, before social media becomes all a buzz, because we know how with how big of a social media presence this is getting. I don't want this to go rampant. So what had happened was we had gone. The other Chris and I had gone on a fall foliage hike. It was June, but the coupon was for now, and it was and then we got a good deal. Not a lot of people were going because of the pandemic and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, we're going on a hike and we're having a pretty good time. Stupid me. I wander off the track a little bit, off the path. All my fault. And I step in this bush, and it get pricked a little bit. Nothing too bad. However, apparently, at this point of the trail, and I think we're about 2/3 of the way in on the hike, something along those lines. The bushes that were there had the thorns. If you got into too many of them, had hallucinogenic properties. So, with our guide telling us that, we go straight back to the car and what have you. And, I drove up there. He's nice enough to, drive back, because, however, I apparently told him about this ancient family heirloom that our family had buried down, just off the Spokane River, and I kind of gave him the exact location. Not remembering this at all. So, about 3 days go by when I finally wake up from whatever this plant was. Again, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. Apparently, during the 3 days, I did get up. I was told 4 different times. Twice to go to the bathroom. The other 2 times to change channel on the TV. So I was able to do that at least. So I had that going for me. Anyway, after about the 3 days, everything's good. I'm texting Chris and everything's fine. However, I get a call from my cousin who said, "Hey, I'm down here at the family heirloom site and it's been dug up and it's been taken away." And it kind of looks like it looks like kind of an urn, only it's all solid. So, all the material, it's all built. So really, there's no way someone could just accidentally happen upon this. So my initial response is, okay, yeah, he obviously took it, So, I've been trying to get a hold of him. I track it down. It's weird. To get off the track, he actually took it to a pawn shop in the outskirts of Sacramento, California. Sold it there, and he I hired a private investigator to try to get us back. I don't want to get the law involved. They're doing too much now as it is, and you would hate to see something come of that. So, I hired a private investigator. Last I heard, he is sitting somewhere in the Pacific Ocean in one of those one-man summer. Basically, if you've played Grand Theft Auto 5, he's basically sitting in one of those submarines and comes out and is getting resource help from the South Koreans, basically for the reason that they think if they help this American citizen, if they help it, and anytime something goes down with the Koreans, North Koreans, they have our back. So, I just wanted to, I've sent him messages, everything's cool, I mean, we can work a deal with the heirloom. We can, figure it out. You just got to come out from the ocean. So, if this episode does get to that single man subway, I just hope he hears this and we get back to it. So that's that. And I just didn't want any crazy rumors flying around. That I was doing this solo. So I mean, in this one, I am going to be talking about the return of boxing mainly, as well as other sports. And I'm pretty big boxing nerd, so I think I think this shouldn't be an issue. So with that being said, let's get to this. All right. So boxing has returned on ESPN along with UFC and some other sports. Now, the problem boxing is having, especially on Saturday nights, is basically the same caliber of fighters are fighting on ESPN. However, casual sport fan is gonna love the UFC way more, and just for the simple fact, it's just beating the shit out of someone else. If they're not talented at all, you're just punching and elbowing a guy just for shits and giggles, and casual fight fan loves that. That's kind of what boxing's running into as a problem. Is even the lower level fights, the lower class fights. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to go into this a little bit later, but some, a lot of the fighters, that wouldn't get a chance on TV that they're showing shouldn't have a chance on TV. But anyway, I go back, you watch the UFC card, and it's just guys just beating the shit out of each other. No one... It's the same reason people, like the Rocky movies, there's no defense in the Rocky movies, and, there's no real defense in these, lower level UFC fights, at least what I can see. So it's just, people like seeing each other get the shit beat out of them. And, because, at the higher levels, there's people who wrestle, there's people who grapple and all that stuff. You can get away with these lower level things, just, being, two guys beating the living shit out of each other for no reason at all. So that's the problem. And you're not that's where we're seeing the problem with the with what UFC's doing, and with boxing coming back. And the last 2 Saturdays they've shown UFC and then Top Rank boxing back to back. Top Rank from Mexico City, so it was the big Mexican names, which were pretty good. Another problem we're seeing with the boxing, though, is they're bringing up these names that they're really trying to push forward on the main events, these 10 rounds. I mean, you look at guys like, let's see, who was fighting. I have it written right here. Like Navarrete, Shakur Stevenson, Saucedo. All these guys are supposed to be, sort of the... kind of the big names. Are like, hey, we're showing you who's coming up next. And none of the fights have really gone... They haven't gone against script. But there's only been one real fight that kind of really would really turn casual fan to say, oh shit, this is something we need to watch. And that's kind of what they ran into is, like Saucedo just fought tonight. Oh, and remind me after I get done with this point, but Saucedo, right after, just fought, went all 10 rounds, beat the living hell of the guy, had no trouble with him, but, didn't do anything impressive, didn't knock him down, and so it's like, dude, here's your chance. You're trying to show, Bob Arum that you you deserve a big one, and you're just, you beat the guy, which is, what you're supposed to do, and you went 10 rounds, which you've never done before, but you're not showing something, and that's kind of what you've seen on every top rank ESPN card so far since everything's been back. Real quick, before I get into a couple more of my other UFC and boxing, I mean, UFC is going to be very minimal. I wanted to mention, and I am recording this at on June 30th. So if you want to go look it up, there was a soccer goal they showed on SportsCenter, and it was supposedly one of the best things, that happened that day, and, was gonna be I don't know. It was supposedly fantastic. So, watching it, and look it up, 6:30, it was on SportsCenter, it's gonna be on all those. June 30th, soccer goal from, my guess is Spain or Germany, I don't know. But, I mean, they get people from every country, so it doesn't really matter, Anyway, you can't tell by the team names a lot, or at least I can't. I don't, I'm sure I could, but it was either in Germany or Spain would be my guesses, or Italy maybe, I don't know. But we look at it, and it's this great goal. The guy gets it at the top of the box, and he kicks, left foot, and he kicks it, and it hooks into the top corner, when it looked like it was going wide. My problem is this soccer goalie who has to stop probably 3 real shots in a game. If you're gonna be god honest with yourself when it comes to soccer, 3 real shots in a game. The fucker watches the ball and doesn't move towards it at all. Just stands there. And all of a sudden, when it hooks back, it looks all fucking surprised. And we're supposed to pretend like it was a good play because the goalie stood there. Now, I will give you this. If the goalie tries to make a play on it and goes out there, I tell you what, if the goalie moves his feet at all, and that goal still goes in, good. Show it on SportsCenter all day, every day. But the goalie just stood there and watched. And from my very amateur opinion, just by watching it, you can look at that and realize that all he had to do was take 4 steps and he would have been able to save it. I mean, or at least had a real chance at it. It wouldn't have been this miraculous goal that everyone's trying to make it out as. And that's the problem. And I don't know why more people don't say this. Soccer is built on minimal effort looking amazing. The reason a shot like that looks great is because there's 4 shots the entire game, and the goalie never fucking moved for that one. And if you look at it, over half the field's standing around at the time, so it doesn't. Anyway, to any professional soccer goalie out there, at least look like you're trying to make an effort at it, for Christ's sake. I mean, maybe you had no chance at it, even if you did, see what was happening. But fuck it, at least make it look good so we can finally start treating you like you're like a real sport here in this continent. So I just wanted to go off on that, and it just really bothered me. And not so much, the fact that it was the greatest thing in the world and it was the best, it was worth a number 1 highlight on SportsCenter when if the goalie moved that much, I could have scored that fucking goal. So let's calm it down a little bit, hey? All right, back to what this episode's about. Kind of my ideas of, boxing and, UFC. Kind of with those being really the first 2 things that are coming back at a, I guess significant level would be the same, or, consistent level. It's interesting to see him come back, no fans, the corner and everything. And, Joe Rogan may have just gotten himself in trouble 5 years ago or whatever. So he's been off the broadcast lately, but we'll see what happens there. I want to talk a little bit more about his deal down the road too. So anyway, UFC, what we're finally starting to see, and I've kind of been waiting for this shoe to drop for years. If you ask, anyone I've known, the fighters are starting to realize that they're getting fucked, based on the money that they're bringing in, based on the money that they're getting paid out. And so you see a couple big names, and quite honestly, I should have researched this more and wrote it down, but there's a couple big names holding out and saying, hey, look, open the books before we fight. Show us how much is coming in, how much you're making. There was one fighter I saw, and I could butcher these numbers absolutely horribly. So there was one fighter that he stated, he was saying that, the players get about, 50% of the revenue in baseball and basketball. He's listing off all these sports. And he gets to UFC and he says, in the UFC, we're getting 18%. The fighters are getting 18% of the revenue that comes in. Again, I could be totally off on, I could be off on both those numbers, but I remember it was a big spread like that. And now that you're starting to hear numbers, it's starting to say, oh shit, what some of these people like the Tito Ortiz, running away and, or not running away, but going away saying, hey, look, we're getting fucked here. And, kind of no one listening because they were all, they all had jobs, which is, and they're all, finally making six figures, which is what, a lot of them weren't doing 5 years before that. You're starting to see that, and you're seeing guys jump to Bellator. I mean, right now, the guys who are jumping to Bellator are on their way down, who seem to, not have much going on. I mean, Chael Sonnen fought 3 times over there. One of them was against Ortiz, while Ortiz was still nailing Jenna Jameson. But you start to see that other shoe drop, and I've been kind of waiting for that for a while, because it always happens. And so what you're going to see now is either the UFC, whether it be Dana White or his board or whatever, is going to have to make some succession to, I don't know if that's the right word, but to the fighters, saying, all right, well, here's a pay bump, or here's what we'll guarantee you on the back end of, of a fight or whatever. That's going to have to happen. What else could happen is the fighters unionize, which I think would be the absolute worst case scenario for the UFC, just for the simple fact that I don't think they want it. But then I don't know, because now I think about it, if you unionize, there's a lot of, I don't know, the fighters could easily look into unionizing. I would have to look into that more to see kind of what that would mean for the fighters, or if it'd even be possible in a combat sport or whatever you have. So the other option is we're going to run into what we almost had back in the Uriah Faber days with Pride, where Faber was kicking everyone's ass, and there was a good section of the UFC population that said, hey, he's the best fighter, and we're not going to know who the best fighter is until he starts fighting these MMA guys. What Dana White was able to do is say, all right, fuck it, and he bought Pride, and then it showed Faber's true color, not true colors, but showed that he wasn't the world beater that he was over at Pride. Now Bellator is kind of the other big name that's going on right now, and I don't think with the assets they have and the deals they have in place, and the contracts they have, I don't think Dana will be able to buy them out as easily as he did Pride. So what you're going to run into now, if the money starts going the right way, if Bellator can get to the point even close to where 50% of what they're taking in is going back to the fighters, and that's coming close to what they're getting paid in the UFC, you're going to see a bunch of fighters migrate. And then plus, in Bellator, you can still make money. That's another thing. In Bellator, you can still make money off, advertisements in the, in ring, where you can't anymore in the UFC. I mean, you still see guys coming out with, logos on the shirts and shit, like you see in a lot of boxing fights. You don't see that in the UFC anymore because of that deal they have with Reebok. But again, the fighters aren't seeing that as much. And they even talked to a cut man who was saying, look, I enjoy, working UFC fights more, but because I get paid this amount for endorsements I wear on the way to the locker room, now that I'm doing that, I can't afford to work, MMA mostly and then go boxing secondary. I have to do it the other way around. You're gonna see fighters who are realizing like, hey, I may be getting slightly less per fight at Bellator, but I can make money off these ads. I can, the way it sits right now, a number 9 fighter in the UFC in the weight class is going to be, 1 or 2 in Bellator most likely. So you get that as well. So and for a lot of his business dealings, and I think it's worked well for him, but a lot of his business dealings, it seems like Dana White has kind of said, hey, look, here's what it is. If you don't like it, fuck off. And, that's kind of worked. I don't think he's going to be able to do this at this point. Now that fighters are bringing up real numbers, now that championship, guys with the belts and not on their, twilight of the career, not on their way out, are saying these things. Guys that are holding off on fights till they're doing, I think if he comes in with the fuck off attitude, this is where you start to see the splintering of mixed martial arts, and where you start to run into kind of, and look at this. This is, I may not have been doing this a while. Podcast gold, looping it back to boxing, where you see what boxing has run into with the WBA, WBO, not, having separate belts. Not only that, but you start to see the top rank versus the PBC versus the Golden Boy type things, where, it's harder to get guys to jump from one promotion to the other. Except Fury's made it happen, so hopefully that means something. Fury's top rank guy, Wilder PBC guy, Joshua is was it Matchroom or Golden Boy or whatever. I think it's Matchroom, and it's the same company as Golden. I don't know how it fucking works, but anyway, Eddie Hearn, the British promoter. Let me fix the microphone here. There we go. Eddie Hearn, the British promoter, who has Joshua, who has a deal with DAZN. I think he still has Kell Brook. A lot of great fighters over there. You see a lot of fighters, on the Golden Boy side, on the top rank, on the PBC, who are having trouble fighting each other. And I think what you're going to run into if the UFC and, specifically Dana White, because he's the figurehead, but I know now that I'm not sure if they're a public company or if they're, anyway, I know he sold them for billions and is, working as the CEO or whatever. But what you're going to run into is if some concession isn't made, I would say within the next 12 months, I see running into a spot where a big name fighter for UFC jumps to Bellator, and you're gonna start having fans, clamoring for fighter A versus fighter B, but fighter B's in Bellator, fighter C's in UFC, and all of a sudden I think you're gonna see a split down, unless, which he's always been able to do, unless Dana White and the company figures out a way to get this squared away without having to go that route. So with that being said, back to the, my favorite of the combat sports and boxing. Again, like I said, you watch lower level UFC fights, it's just two guys beating the living shit out of each other. In my opinion, there's no sport to it. A guy gets knocked to the ground, so let's just keep elbowing him in the mouth. That just doesn't seem sporting. If you look, it just seems angry, and it just seems, I don't know, it just seems, even in playgrounds or even in bar fights, you don't do that shit. Bar fights, a guy hits, sad to say, I've been in a few bar fights myself, and once a guy hit the ground, I backed off and I figured we were done. And, if it'd be one thing if, the guy, as he's going to the ground, grabbed me and, started trying to choke me or something like that. But these fights are just guys going on the ground, and then we're just going to beat the shit out of each other. And I just don't see the sport in it. I also don't really necessarily like how, they always say, that, a puncher has, a puncher's chance, a boxer beats a puncher except for that, one time. From what I see in the UFC, it seems like the puncher has more of a chance than the most skilled guy. Whereas I would say, the most skilled guy is going to win 8 out of 10 fights. 8 out of 10 fights, on a card. If you go down, a 10 fight card, low level to high level, fighters. In boxing, 8 out of 10 of those, they're gonna, the higher skilled guy is gonna win that. So, however, I would say it's a 50-50 proposition. I could, maybe not me, but a guy I know who has very little training, who can duck 2 shots and can knock anybody out with 1 punch, has a legitimate shot in mixed martial arts. I won't say UFC, but has in local mixed martial arts, just for that simple fact that, it's easier to catch a guy in UFC and end it than, having to build up to the fight, if that makes any sense. So what I'm going to do right now is, one of our main listeners from the beginning, guys giving us beer recommendations as we go, and my sister actually just gave me one, so that will be that'll most likely be the next episode. So the guy who asked for the kind of my boxing analysis, if you will, because of course I am the foremost expert of everybody I know. So, I mean, they ask me for my opinion on everything, whether it be politics, sports, whether it be, traffic laws. I'm the guy that people turn to. So, I hope that, with me doing this, I could spread my knowledge a little bit further, further down the road. Until we hit until we get to the road where I'm not the foremost expert. But that's going to take a while. I get it. So, our buddy Forney mentioned he wanted to talk about how boxing, and he mentioned Ryan Garcia. And right now there's a lot of good fighters in the super lightweight and lightweight kind of that are kind of still floating around there. There's a lot of good names, a lot of young names. However, you're seeing a lot of you look at, Teofimo Lopez, Gervonta Davis, what did I see? Yeah, I mean, Devin Haley, I think Haney. Yeah, Devin Haney is there. Linares, Comey. There's a lot of good fighters there, and so Ryan Garcia is gonna have to go through all of them. He just called out Gervonta Davis, and what is gonna happen is, like I said before, you have a PBC guy versus Matchroom or Golden Boy. I don't know. They're both on DAZN. So that fight's going to be tougher to make. They're talking about Ryan Garcia having to fight Devin Haney next. The problem is right now in the lightweight, super lightweight area, it's pretty much set that kind of Lomachenko is kind of the number one. A lot of people are saying he is the number 1 pound for pound guy in all of boxing. I'm not so sold on it. He looked like he could have been a couple years ago. He had that shoulder injury, and since then his power hasn't really shown up, and that's kind of what scared everybody. Is he was a great boxer and had just amazing power if he caught you, and that hasn't shown up. But if you look at who you have to go through if you're Garcia, because Garcia really doesn't have the resume of a lot of these fighters here. I mean, even Davis has a bit more of a has a slightly stronger resume, even though they're about the same age, about the same amount of fights. I don't see Garcia getting the shot, but there's a lot of people he has to go through. Again, you get Devin Haney. Really, he did call out Davis. I think I got Davis in that fight pretty easily. Even the bigger names, I haven't seen him. There hasn't, even if he has any weaknesses, none of them have been able to be exposed in the ring. So unless you could find that weakness, I don't see. I mean, Davis has a chin. I mean, he has a neck tattoo, so there's that. And so Ryan Garcia, great, great prospect from what I see, but I gotta see it. Just this is my opinion. Forney, don't shut it out, but I gotta see Garcia fight a bigger name before I start calling him before I start calling him a contender in that super lightweight, before we start saying that. So, it looks like we have Lomachenko. It's a good thing I waited till today to do this. I was going to do this yesterday, but it was just announced. Bob Arum just said that the fight, Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko, are set to fight in September. Their first fight was pushed off because of this whole Asian AIDS thing, and they are set to fight in September. We are, and he's going to do that without an audience or not. That is going to be, I think, a good, I don't know, I see Lomachenko having no problem with it. It would be, it's going to be a good fight to show kind of what, because, I mean, Lopez is not a, just kind of a, hey, let's throw, not a Chris Arreola, if you will, a guy like, hey, let's throw him in here and see how he does there. He's a legitimate fighter, and if Lomachenko shows me something in that fight, shows me some of the power back, whether he knocks him out or not, but shows me that he can, if he can do something big to Lopez, I would be willing to jump back on the top pound for pound fighter. Right now, again, I'm just not seeing it, but. Like I said, I do see Ryan Garcia. I like Davis better, but you look at, Lanier, there's Comey, there's Gamboa, there's all these names that both of them have to go through to get the shot after Loma. But I like Garcia's chances less than I like Davis's chances. Right now, however, the best weight class, in my opinion, is the welter. It might not be my opinion, it might be fact, but the best weight class is the welterweight division. With Terrence Crawford, I put him number one pound for pound, probably my favorite fighter out there. But you go down the list of names. Pacquiao still there. Last fight just beat Keith Thurman, who's there. You have Errol Spence, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Ugas, Lipinets. You look at how deep that is. Any one of those guys would be a number one, number one weight class, number 1 or 2 weight class guys in any other weight class. You just don't. They're just it's too deep. Now here's where you're running into the boxing problem, and I will say this right now: Terrence Crawford, best pound for pound fighter. My opinion, best welterweight fighter, in my opinion. You go down the list. Pacquiao, Spence, Porter, Thurman, Garcia. Those are kind of the main names that are there, all PBC guys. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to get one of these guys. And unfortunately, I think it's going to have to be Crawford. I think it's Crawford who's going to have to put his belt on the line to a non-belt holder. My guess would be Thurman would make the most sense for their camp, just because Thurman hasn't shown the kind of the big power kind of thing. Spence can knock anyone out at any time. Garcia, has a good amount of power for that. Thurman is more of a kind of a technical fighter, and I think that serves Crawford well, at least better than fighting a Spence, who's very unorthodox, or fighting fighting a Pacquiao wouldn't be too bad, speed guy. But you're gonna have to put your belt on the line with nothing to gain, and I have a hard time believing that Bob Arum Top Rank or Terrence Crawford want to do that. They would want some sort of belt, which would mean, you'd be looking at Errol Spence, you'd be looking at Pacquiao. Porter's still belt holder, I believe. So you can go there. As far as belt holders, if you look at those names, I think Porter's your best chance of getting a fight. He seems kind of the most open to anything. But if you're a PBC guy with all those names there, you don't have to jump out of your comfort zone and fight Terrence Crawford. Let him yell and scream at the wind and all that stuff. You're fighting the rest of regardless of how good Terrence Crawford is, you're fighting the best in that division. The one thing Terrence Crawford has is, hey, I knocked out Jeff Horn, who beat, quote unquote, Manny Pacquiao in a decision in Australia, where if you're not blind, if you're deaf, you score it the other way, because the crowd in that giant stadium in Australia being heavily on Horn's side, I think helped all the close rounds. So that would be that's the one argument you have. Hey, we knocked out the guy that took you the distance and won. So that's the one argument they have. Again, that was 4 years ago, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. Well, no, it was the Horn fight would have been about 2.5 years ago. Yeah, so probably 3.5, 4 years. Anyway, the welterweight division is the one to watch, and again, I really hope they figure out a way to cross streams, if you will, from promoters, because what you've seen is it may not have been the promoters, but Tyson Fury has been willing to do that, going from Top Rank, to understanding that Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua are the big names, or were the big names in the heavyweight division. He was willing to step out of there, and the Wilder fight was made first, and made it twice. In the last fight, he just put he just beat the living hell out of him. There's the whole thing where Wilder got punched in the back of the head, and accidentally, of course, nothing to get worked up about, but he got punched in the back of the head and kind of wasn't the same after that, which I could see. But even before that punch, Fury was outclassing him. He was kind of looking like the world beater that he was supposed to be before he went batshit. And it's starting to come back, which is pretty cool. If we have to see a third fight, that's already in there. The draw, I could see being a draw. The first fight, I had Wilder winning it by a nose, mostly because of the knockdowns. But with you, let me finish my beer. So let me adjust the seat here. There we go. So with the knockdown, I had him winning. I had him winning it, but I could definitely see a draw there. There wasn't enough to say that in the next fight, it could have. The fact that it went as long as it did, was kind of a testament to the fighter. Lost the mic there. Was a testament to the fighter that Wilder is, because I think anyone else in the ring would have kind of stepped out of that earlier, and it wasn't. Wilder kept in, but he was outclassed. He was expecting to see the Fury he got 2 fights earlier. The guy who had one fight back and is fighting but he got the guy who said, hey, look, I'm still in my prime. He got 4 minus Wilder. He had 4 other professional fights since his comeback before that. So he got the real Tyson Fury, and it just didn't look like he was ready for him. It looked like he expected the same guy, and said, look, I could have knocked this guy out the last time. I'm getting the same guy. I'm going to be able to knock him out here, and he just couldn't. So that's that third fight's going to be pretty good. I think, unfortunately, even though I'm a Patriot, I think I see Fury winning that fight. I don't see it I see it ending before the cards. I don't see it ending. I don't see it ending early, if that makes sense. I mean, I think you're looking at a 10th, 11th round TKO, something like that. I don't think you're seeing a guy who's I don't think you're seeing a guy, in the 4th round, eat the canvas and not be able to get up. But so that looks good. And also what I just saw, I don't think this was today, this was a couple days ago. Fury just signed a 2-fight deal to fight Anthony Joshua. And kind of we'll see what Joshua looks like. His last fight was Ruiz, where he basically had to redeem himself for that abortion he put up the first time they fought. And if you watch the replay back, you could definitely, all the excuses he had. I suffered concussion in training camp. He hit me on the same spot. Yada yada. Okay, yeah, I could see all that. But you're Anthony Joshua. You're trying to sell yourself as the heavyweight guy. You're trying to sell yourself as the number one heavyweight guy, and you let a fat Mexican Ruiz just walk all over you. And then in the second fight, he was showing that he was the better fighter. He was showing that he could beat the living fuck out of the guy. Didn't put him on the mat, however. So, that shows something. But I think Joshua needs Wilder and Fury more than they need him right now. I think his reputation is still kind of still kind of tainted from that fight. And you go further down the heavyweight division, you've got some other good fighters. You have Dillian White fighting Povetkin, looks like August 22nd. It was supposed to be July 4th. However, Dillian White has just sued. I'm trying to see, if it was the promotion company. Anyway, he just sued. He's supposed to he's the number one contender to fight Fury. However, it's clear he's gonna have to wait, 3 fights to do it, because Fury has to fight Wilder again. He fights Joshua twice, and then he's open up for White, and who knows what can happen there. Povetkin isn't a joke. That could and White, I think, I should have looked this up beforehand. I think White already lost to Joshua. I think that's who he. Nope. Maybe I don't fucking know. I'll have to look it up. I'll look it up, but I could be wrong. I could be half past stupid on that. But White just sued. He's trying to get the fight with Fury beforehand. I would wait to see what I do in the next fight, because Fury doesn't look. I don't know. Fury's scaring me right now. I thought Wilder would be able to, especially after the first fight, I thought he would be able to beat him pretty easily. Not pretty easily. I thought it would have been close, but I didn't see what I saw the last fight. But White's suing. He wants to fight. He wants to fight Fury next, obviously, for the big payday. You still got the name Ruiz there. I think Joshua has to fight him again. But yeah, that was just an absolute joke. It was a spot filler, and, he just hit him in the right spot. Then Usyk's still around in the heavyweight division. I know Ortiz, a guy who's had fucking great fights with everyone in that division. He's 42. He says he's not done, but I think he's done. And then I think Chris Arreola's still trying to fight. I'm not. And especially from watching these top-ranked fights, they've had a couple heavyweight fights on there, and there just doesn't seem to be the next big thing that you kind of look for when you look for a, it looks like, Wilder, Fury, Joshua, White, if you're lucky, Joseph Parker, the fighter from New Zealand. I believe he lost to White and Joshua. He's still hanging around, and I think he would be good. If White wins in August and has to wait. Joseph Parker, Dillian White fight, I think would be a pretty good test, and it'd be a pretty good barometer, a rematch of that. You're not getting Wilder, since Well, Wilder? Now the Fury fight's the last one Wilder has. You're not getting Wilder. I don't see what else you do, but you gotta do something while you're waiting for the lawsuit to bring up, while you're waiting to see what happens with Joshua and Fury. I always thought that Wilder would beat Joshua. I have a feeling that Fury is just gonna put the wood to Joshua. I do not see it. I see it just being an absolute beating, which is a little worrisome because if they have to fight overseas, because with all the tensions over here, that could be seen as a hate crime. I would hate to see Tyson Fury go down that road. I enjoyed that joke a little more than I should have. So those are kind of my big takeaways from, the big marquee names that are flying around there. Again, if you're just kind of, stepping back into boxing or trying to step into boxing, check out the welterweight division. Go back. All the PBC fights are on demand, where you can get them. Watch Porter Thurman. Watch Thurman Garcia. Thurman Pacquiao. You're starting to see boxing come back. I think boxing is back, and it's starting to seep into the mainstream. It's finally starting to. Boxing fan is excited again, and you're starting to see mainstream guy, back there again. And so we're starting to see that, and I'm really enjoying that. And I go through some of the names. The 126. You talk about Gary Russell Jr., Kid Callahan, Frampton, Shakur Stevenson just fought on ESPN. They keep talking. He looked really good. They keep talking, however, with him being 2021, that 126, he's not going to stay there forever. They're talking about him kind of growing into himself and moving up the division. If you're looking at 130 with Burchelt and Leo Santa Cruz, which is also, that's another name you want to. Leo Santa Cruz always puts on a good fight. But yeah, if you look at that, that's there's a couple names right there that if you get it on the ground floor, Stevenson looked really good. Burchelt, he looked decent tonight. Again, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but that wasn't him tonight. It was Sacito tonight. It was Burchelt Saturday. Neither one of them, lit the world on fire, which really kind of upset me. With you're being on ESPN in a primetime spot. You have the entire sporting world looking at you, and you weren't able to kind of do something. I mean, they were great fights, and even the fight tonight was a great fight. It was unfortunate to see that that there wasn't a Sports Center moment, if you will, in any of those. But yeah, you go there. I mean, that's 126. The lower levels are harder to kind of. I guess I just don't care. But you go up to 154. You look at Jermell Charlo, Laura, all those names. I mean, if you look up these names, you're gonna see some shit you like. 160, you go Canelo Alvarez, Triple G, Jermall Charlo, Eubank, other names. I kind of start here. So we're getting to the end of this. Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith, Caleb Plant, Antonio Durrell. There's a lot of good names out there. But if you want my opinion, Terrence Crawford is the best fighter out there. It's going to be hard to fuck with Tyson Fury. If anyone has a chance, it's still Wilder. I firmly believe that. And in the lightweight or super light division, Ryan Garcia does look good. We'll see what Lopez does against Loma. But I think Gervonta Davis is the one to watch there. I think he has the biggest upside. I also think he has kind of more of the skills that are needed there. So that kind of concludes my first boxing analysis. I hope you enjoyed me more than Max Kellerman. I didn't want to do the Harold Letterman kind of, okay, Jim, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was worth your while. So again, what I was drinking today was it was what's called the Pub Beer Lager. If you look for it in stores, it's just a white can, black letters that says Pub Beer. It's from 10 Barrel Brewing Company out of Bend, Oregon. Bend, Oregon seems to have a lot of good stuff coming out of it, or at least a lot of stuff that gets up to our area. But no, I would highly recommend it. And now with the local breweries and kind of the microbrews opening, I'll be able to kind of expand my horizons a little bit going forward. Anyway, I appreciate you listening, and go ahead and like, subscribe. This break was an anomaly. That's not gonna be the normal. There's the holiday thing, and then there's the I had to make sure when I looted I didn't get in trouble and all that sort of stuff. Oh, and the heirloom thing. But like, subscribe, rate, comment, all that good stuff. We're on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. Look us up on social media, both Instagram and Twitter, C Squared Hour. And if nothing else, at the latest, I will see you folks next Tuesday.